you would, Rick.
Sure. Let us pray. Dear God, we thank you, Lord, for all that you've given us, God. Lord, we thank you for a new year, and Lord, we thank you just for everything that last year taught us, God, and Lord, everything that this year's going to it's planning ahead for us. So we thank you so much for that. God, Lord, we thank you for our country that we live in, God, and we thank you for what it represents and the people that's in it, God. And I ask you, Lord, just to watch over our nation, Lord, especially watch over us tomorrow as a big change in history with our president. God, I ask you, Lord, as his next 4 years, just let him and his administration um, watch over the country, do what's best for it, and everybody that's in it. God, I ask you, Lord, just be with the city, be with the people that protect it, just make it go from a day-to-day basis. Lord, I ask you, Lord, be with the citizens, be with the meeting tonight, and the things that are discussed. Let it be for the benefit of the city. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. That's plenty of the Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next time I'll bring music. Let's go with the roll call, please.
Councilmember Lewis. Here. Mizell.
Here.
Weston.
Here.
King. Phillips.
Here. Here, and we have a quorum. For those who will be watching on the live stream, there should be, are these charts on the website yet?
They will be after today.
Okay, so unfortunately you don't have the charts to follow along on the live stream either. So the agenda is the pretty standard agenda. We'll approve the consent agenda. We'll have department head reports, and as you know, we're alternating those every other council meeting. Certain departments at one meeting and others in the next meeting. We have a couple of resolutions we'll talk about at the time. We'll have board reports, city discussion of city business, the mayor's reports, any announcements, and then we'll open it up for public comment before we adjourn. So the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which is the minutes of the January 5th regular council meeting and approval of the minutes of the January 12th council work session. If there aren't any corrections or questions to the minutes, then we'll approve the consent agenda. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I make a recommendation. We approve the consent agenda as written.
Okay, consent agenda is approved. And so next we'll go with the department head reports. So let's see. First we'll have the police department. Chief, you need,
I don't have no.
you got your card.
Okay. So everything's going good at the police department. The first thing we're gonna look at is safety. Safety is green, staying steady. We don't have any on the job injuries. Everybody's healthy. The second one we're looking at is budget. The budget is green and steady. We're right on track where we normally are this time of the year. Next one's gonna be personnel. We're yellow right now, but improving. We've got a couple of open slots, and we have interviews set up for Thursday, and then a couple of days next week, some applicants that we've got in. So we're gonna start interviewing those people until we get somebody hired before the next council meeting, so we should be green there. Our vehicles are yellow, but improving. Our fleet is pretty stable, but we got 2 new vehicles that should be in hopefully by the end of this month. Last time I talked to Stivers Dodge in Montgomery, our units are actually being built and should be ready by the end of the month. So we hope to get them outfitted and hopefully have them on the road hopefully by the middle to the end of next month. Equipment is all good. We've actually got a lot of new equipment in through the CARES Act. We got I think 11 laptops. We got 12 new portable breathalyzers that exhaust out the side instead of straight towards the officers. Those are a huge help. We also got 13 AEDs, which are the automatic defibrillators for people having heart attacks. Training on those will be the 26th of this month, which is next Tuesday. We'll get our CPR recertification, training on the AEDs, and then all of those will be issued. So we're good with with our equipment. The next is training. We're green on training. Like I said, our first training of the year is going to be our CPR certification, and then the AEDs. Moving on to issues and concerns. With the start of the new year, guys are out. Guys and gals are all out checking traffic control, making sure people are maintaining the speed limit, and checking for property crimes during the patrols. We ask that everybody please obey the speed limit coming into town. We've got several complaints speeding on 47 north and south. 30 is a pretty hot spot, and 025 west. People coming down 025 past taking butter in front of cars at pretty good rates of speed. So the guys going to be out really enforcing those areas. Moving on to highlights. This is going back to the CARES Act. We were able to purchase through the CARES Act 11 new laptops. These laptops come with cameras. You guys can do virtual training, do Zoom meetings. They're a huge help. Our old laptops were first purchased in 2010, so they have completely run their course. We also purchased the PVTs. Those were great because of the exhaust out the sides instead of straight towards the officers. The AEDs, I feel, are just invaluable. It's one of those things. It's better to have it and not need it, and then need it and not have it. And we're just looking forward to getting those out on the road. We've also purchased several gloves, sanitizers, face masks. All these things are being put out on the road. And so that's our highlights. We're extremely blessed to be able to take advantage of the CARES Act.
Okay. Any questions for the chief?
Yeah, I think I asked, what about those cameras? Did we get that grant on those cameras we applied for?
We were supposed to know something about the camera grant at the end of this month. It was supposed to be the 1st of January, and it got moved back to the end of January. So we should know something here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
You're talking the body cams?
Body cameras. And how many were those? 10 or 11?
I think we ordered, the grant was supposed to be for 12, enough to cover any new officers. They will be. Training is next Tuesday. Once the guys are trained on them, then they'll be the cars.
So I have a question then about that. Will the AED be assigned to the car? Because you don't have 13 cars on
Yes,
the road.
no, it'll be assigned to the car. We've got one for each car, one for the building, and then we might get one for the court that'll actually come out.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Admin. Colleen?
Everything's going well in admin. We have, for safety, we have no reports of safety issues. We're continuing to clean and disinfect due to COVID. I sent out to all the department heads their December 2020 budget. We're down a little bit in revenues, but we're like 15% under on expenses, so that's really good. We are currently fully staffed. Casey Watkins and I, Assistant City Clerk, and I will be attending a certified clerk training in February. Once a year in January, we're supposed to report on the 10-cent gas tax money that we received. To date, nothing has been spent on that. Shelby County is letting that bid that we're a part of, and they should start that this summer. So after that, we'll have spent some of that gas tax money. That's all we have for administration.
Okay. Any questions for the clerk? None? Okay. Public Works.
Right now, in safety and everything, we, on green and stuff, only thing we did have one of the employees go off the back of the truck. Dumping a kid and stuff, and he was injured and stuff, he just stoved up a little bit. Other than that, we hadn't had no injuries for the year. Budget is running fine, staffing, it's still a gallon, we're still down 2 people. Vehicles was in red, and I mean, good y'all are working on that, trying to help us get all this corrected and stuff, and upgrade some of the vehicles. We still looking for one pickup to put back out in the garbage. We got one ordered for equipment's in y'all, some of it's just, a lot of it's just old and eventually we got to replace it. And, training is in green. The facilities we had it in red, but we've changed it to y'all because y'all currently working on that, still trying to figure out which way we're gonna go with that. And our concern is still was trying to keep a full staff and going around with some of the roads. They paved it, and like Charlene said, I talked to Clay Idaho Monday, and the counties last year let that bid in April, which the reason we went on the county is cheaper for us to piggyback off the back of the county's coattail, because we done it ourselves, we gotta pay activation fee for them to come in here. And I'm like, yeah, we've got all the care stuff we qualified to be able to order in our department, everything you currently using to keep things clean. That's all I've got.
Any questions for Alan?
Yes,
Yes,
the
sir.
signs, what's the difference between the blue and the green?
The green is, county, is, city,
Uh-huh.
and the blue, street sign.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, it may be a private sign, it being blue, I don't know.
The county just, they just went around and changed all the signs in the county. They upgraded to where you're, if you see a green one, it's one that they work and they service.
Uh-huh.
The blue one is a private drive and they don't service them, and that's how they're telling the difference in what they service and what they don't.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. So, the next one is for court. I don't think we have anybody from the court here. So let me see what their report says. So they've got all their COVID-19 supplies. They have a new answering service that's up and running. The next court's going to be held on the 26th at 2 p.m. And they have a kiosk that's up and running. There's one out here in the lobby, and I think that allows people to come in and pay fines, et cetera, so it doesn't have to be any personal contact. I think it does several other things as well, but I'm not up to speed on it. And they're working on getting some laptop software so that they can start virtual hearings at the jail instead of having to go do those face to face. All of this is a result of COVID-19. I'll entertain questions, but I'm not sure that I can answer all those questions. Anybody have any questions about the court? If not, I was just going to write them down anyway. Okay, we'll move on. Okay. I believe we discussed this at the last council meeting, or either one of the recent council meetings, and we had a work session on it. And that was the need to update the city's pay scale. Our first couple of grades of our existing pay scale, and several steps in those first couple of grades, the beginning steps, was actually well below the legal minimum wage. So it had not been updated in many, many years. I don't know when the $7.25 minimum wage, but we had several steps in like grade one that were $6 and something as the starting salary. And our job descriptions talk about, for specific employee classifications, what grades apply to those classifications. And ideally, we'd like to start them in step one, but obviously if somebody was a grade one, we couldn't start them in a step one because it would be against the law to pay them less than the legal minimum wage. So long story short, we said we needed to update it. Our Policies and Procedures Committee led the charge, and I think they researched like cities or similar cities, particularly in Shelby County, to find a template that was appropriate. And I think they ended up using Montevallo as a template. Vicki, why don't I turn this over to you, Councilwoman Mizell, since she was council person on that committee. Kind of tell us what we did.
We actually went by, had 3 or 4 different cities' pay scales that we went by. Montevallo was the closest, but also it put us at an area and a level that we should be at for Columbiana also. But when we were actually going over all the pay scales, and like the mayor said, there's so many amounts and hourly wages that were so low, when we got finished, we worked it out so that everybody's in the whole city's scale, the whole scale is, will be vamped where everybody in the city will see a change to get them on the right scale that they need to be on. With, let's see, our pay grades, the pay scale, we're also working on a merit system so that we can do our evaluations that haven't been done in years. So there's a whole lot entailed in the meetings that we have. We had several meetings. It worked out great. A few here, I know, was actually in the meetings with us. And we're really pleased about it, and I think that the whole city would be pleased about it if you actually saw what these employees have been making over the last several years. And for the very reason that we can't keep employees, it is definitely a needed thing that we've done. So we're hoping everybody be happy with it, that everybody be excited, and we're going to get on a realm of where we're like Montevallo or the other cities. We're going to have evaluations every year like we're supposed to have. You're going to be on a sliding scale. We're going to decide as far as from this point forward, we've got to get that all, the merit increases and all figured out. But we want it to be where our city's as good as anybody else and other cities can't take our people away. So that's kind of where we're going with that. And if anybody else is in the meeting, has any, Johnny, Dale, anybody else got anything, Al, that you want to say? Include to that, is there anything that y'all, Jeff?
No, I'd just like to say that I know everybody put a lot of time into it, and it is something that's been very well needed, and I want to thank each and every one of you that participated, put your hours in it, because it was a long task, but.
It was.
So from my perspective, and the perspective I think from the entire council and for the city, it was absolutely imperative that we at least have a pay scale that's compliant with federal law. I mean,
Right.
it's just a shame that
Exactly.
we had one that for all these years was not compliant with federal law. I mean, we weren't paying anybody below minimum wage, but again, the scale didn't necessarily come into compliance. And of course, by adjusting it, it made the entire pay scale adjust. And I believe when we went through several public math exercises during our council work session, and we finally agreed that the net overall increase in the scale was about 4%. Is that correct? Overall. And so, anyway, the council came up with a resolution to adopt the pay scale. Would someone like to introduce that resolution? If there's no other questions.
Mr. Mayor, I introduce resolution 012103. It's adopting new city pay grades and pay scales.
I'll second.
And I'll need a show of hands. Okay, is that unanimous? Of course, Councilman King is not here. The pay scale, we would have, if technology was working tonight, we would have been able to show you the new pay scale so that everybody can see that. It will be posted on the website, so it will be visible for everybody to be able to see that. Okay, and I have it right here. Somebody later on wants to come up and take a look at it. Oh. Okay. There is another resolution that's not in here. Okay. Do you have that resolution? So as a result of the adjustment in the pay scale, it will be a requirement to amend the city's budget for this year. Now, as Charlene mentioned, we are substantially below on the expense line, and so this isn't gonna affect the overall cost for this particular calendar year, and because of the time, or this fiscal year, and the timing that we're also implementing the budget will also make it where it shouldn't have an impact on the overall budget for this year. But having said that, oh yes, we did, thank you. We, I think, talked at either the last meeting or one of the recent meetings as well, about the need for a new garbage truck for the sanitation department. So we adjusted the budget to be able to spend up to $100,000 for it won't be a new truck, but it'll be new to us. And I think we've received some quotes on that, and we should be able to stay underneath that budget. So that's included in the budget amendment. So would someone like to introduce a resolution for amendment to the budget?
Mr. Mayor, I introduce resolution 012104. It's amending the fiscal year 2021 budget to include salary increases and in addition of a second garbage truck for public works.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, this one involves us expenditures, so I think we should probably do a roll call vote for this one.
Councilmember Lewis.
Yes.
Mizell.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Phillips. Mayor Mitchell.
Yes. Okay, the resolution has been passed. Okay, so let me go back and see. So any other business that we need to discuss? Any old business or unfinished business that from previous meetings that the council would like to discuss?
No, we'll ask, Al, how long will it take to get that truck, you think, once you settle it?
I've got time morning, since y'all I'm gonna meet with him in the morning, I talked to him today, and he's gonna go back over everything that we seen that needed to be done to the truck to fit what we needed. I'm gonna say probably 2 weeks. Maybe, it may not be that long, could be longer, it just depends on him getting it in there and doing the stuff we needed done to it.
Good deal.
To meet our needs and everything.
And where's it located?
In Pelham and Ingram Equipment, that's all, they specialize in garbage trucks, vacuum trucks, all that.
Good deal.
Any other old or unfinished business? Any new business anybody would like to raise? We'll have plenty of that, I think, as we go forward. Okay. So mayor's report, I think, is the next item on the agenda. We talked about this at the previous council meeting. Economic development being important for Columbiana. We hosted the Shelby County Retail Development Forum at the Old Mill Square on January 13th. So most of the municipalities in the county were representative. It was basically a training session for city council as well as key members of the administration. The next economic development forum will be focused on industrial development, and that's going to be hosted by Calera on February 10th, which is also when we will be having our bi-monthly Mayor's Association meeting. We've talked at previous council meetings about the need for a new public works facility and a satellite fire station. We've been evaluating alternatives, and that process is continuing. There's work still going on that. We've looked at several alternatives. One of those alternatives involved possibly either selling a piece of property that the city owns or swapping that piece of property for services in kind to Dunn Building. Dunn needed a decision on that, at least initially they said they did, last Friday. So we told them we were not in a position to be able to make that commitment to be able to do that on Friday. However, Dunn has come back and suggested that we might be able to keep that dialogue open with them. One of the alternatives was for us to purchase a piece of property old Greedy warehouse property and an existing warehouse and upgrade that. We didn't make a formal offer, but I did suggest a price, which is substantially below the market value contained in the tax records. In fact, it's less than half. And Greedy indicated their willingness to potentially accept that offer if we ever got to the point of making it. So that keeps that alternative, I think, on the table for us. The other thing that we're doing is looking at funding sources and evaluating alternatives to demolish the old city maintenance building, which is behind, I believe it's behind Main Street Florist and across from the Old Mill Square, and construct a parking lot that would be jointly used by merchants on Main Street as well as for Old Mill Square. So we're looking at alternatives to be able to fund that and the impact that that would have. So those are the things that I've been kind of tinkering around in. Are there any questions?
Where, do we know where that meeting at Clear will be on the 8th or the 10th?
Not yet, but it's assumed that it'd be at Calera City Hall, but I'll get the details for that soon. Announcements, Ally, you wanna?
So next Tuesday, January 26th, is the EMS district vote. Events this week, this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is Extreme Bulls at the Exposition Center. Doors open at 7 and the show is at 7:30 every night, and you can buy tickets at the door. I think they're $20. Thursday, January 21st is the juried art exhibit opening reception at the Arts Council from 6 to 8. And then on this Sunday, the 24th, is the Helen Keller reception, art exhibit reception from 3 to 5. Then upcoming in February 5th, the Arts Council's doing a beginner yoga workshop, which is, I thought would be fun to do. And then
I'll be
February
there.
February 26th and the 27th is the Cattleman's Rodeo, and then February 27th is Cowboy Day.
Okay. Anybody else have any other announcements they'd like to?
I just want to add to Ally's, on the extreme bull riding, it's half capacity for the arena.
And that will be for the rodeo as
Yeah,
well.
the rodeo as well, yeah.
So are they selling tickets in advance then, or is it tickets at the gate?
From what I understand, I'm sorry.
Extreme Bulls will not sell in advance, this is what they told me today.
Okay.
But the rodeo will.
So theoretically, you could show up and be turned away.
Isn't the Extreme Bulls doing 3 different sessions or something like that?
They're doing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Oh, 3 different days, not session, okay.
And the rodeo
And
is
the
going to
rodeo's
do,
doing sessions,
yeah, they'll do a 7 o'clock on the 26th, and then they'll do a 1 o'clock,
1 and 7.
1 and 7 on the 26th.
How many can get in?
That's still, I think they're debating those.
I'm not exactly sure on that number, half capacity.
Any other announcements from the council?
I do, actually. I was gonna mention earlier and I forgot. Everybody that's a department head in here, raise your hand. Working on the pay grade and pay scale, they actually deserve a pat on the back too, because they were all concerned about their employees and not themselves. And that was a huge argument throughout the whole dealing with this, was them mostly just concerned about what their employees could get. To be able to keep employees and let them have a better life, a better pay, whatever you want to call it. But each department head was definitely on board with worrying about their employees. So they do deserve a thank you and a pat on the back for that.
Okay, I'll open it up to public comment, questions. Yes, sir.
I believe Ms. Tugger said that we were 15% underneath the solid, correct?
No, that's not what she said. We're 15% under budget.
On expenses.
Which is good. So how does this 4% raise, which I have no problem with giving folks, at all, they earned it,
Right.
how does that affect us as far as revenue?
Well, as far as revenue is concerned, it has no impact on revenue because it's an expense, obviously. We'll be spending the money on our employees, on our city employees. The 4% increase is based on an annualized basis, and we're already in the second quarter of the fiscal year. So we took a look at the impact on the overall city budget, and based upon how we are currently progressing, and we recast the budget, and we still should be well under budget by the end of the fiscal year.
I just want to know if we're going to stay solvent.
Yes, there's no problems with the city's solvency.
That's not what I meant about how it affects us, bringing money back in, is we got to have something to make up for whatever we leave out, correct?
Well, yes, that's generally the way it's revenue in order to be able to fund expenses.
And I didn't know if you had any plans for revenue, in the back of your head swimming around, or.
Well, we get 95%, almost 95% of our revenue from sales tax, and that's why there's a focus on economic development so that we can bring in more sales tax revenue. We get very, very little revenue from ad valorem tax. We get very, very little revenue from gas tax, although we do get some. But our focus has to be, if we want to generate revenue, on sales tax, and that means we have to facilitate an economic environment where our businesses can thrive. And then we have to do things like the activities that we've been talking about, the extreme bowls, the Cowboy Day, and things of that nature, where we bring people into the city to be able to spend money at our businesses so that it will help us our businesses to generate that sales tax revenue.
Okay. Well, just curious. Thank you.
You bet. Good question. Any other questions or comments?
I know you guys don't ever get to see all of our employees throughout the day, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell you thank you to the council and the mayor for approving this, and our employees are gonna be greatly appreciative.
In addition to, thanks for bringing that up, Dale. We really appreciate that. In addition to, there's one thing that, in addition to that not working, the computer being down, the remote control being gone, there are 2 or 3 charts that are gone from this presentation. There should have been one where we had board reports, okay, from the boards and the committees. And the only one that I'm really aware of that has occurred recently is the planning commission. So you made me think of it since you just spoke up there. So can you sort of give us a quick update on what went on at the planning commission?
Planning commission, we had a meeting Thursday night, so we had to subdivide some properties for a homeowner. And, we talked about Springs Crossing, they brought in their, final plat for the Sector 3, Phase 1 of 2, for the planning commission to approve that Mylar. So, I went out to the job site today, they poured the curbs for that sector. So we got that taken care of. And then we've been working with High Point, caused some issues about taking over a county road or not. And me and the mayor put a lot of thought into this, and we're not gonna take over the county road. High Point actually talked to them today on the phone, and they're gonna put a cul-de-sac on that lower section, do away with some of the lots. So they're supposed to be bringing that plan to the commission, hopefully second Thursday in February, and get that set of plans approved for that subdivision. But our commissioners, they work very hard. They're still working on updating the plan and zoning ordinance. Dates back to 1958. So they set up work sessions, just like the council sets up work sessions. And these guys, they work for free. There's no pay involved, but we got a good group of planning commissioners. So my hat's off to those guys for working very hard on this, updating the
planning and zoning ordinance.
Yeah, mine too. As I each day get my feet more firmly planted on the ground in this role, the planning and zoning ordinances, laws, rules, regulations, et cetera, is probably one of the more complicated things that goes on. So I agree, these guys who participate in this project with, for no pay, on this committee are doing yeoman's work. And most of the time, what they get is complaints. I mean, really, most people come to them, don't like the way something's zoned, don't like the way we've planned out certain things, and they get lots of complaints because it's not ideal for their particular circumstance. So it's a unforgiving job, but it's an important job. And going back to the question that you asked, as Dale mentioned, we were asked to consider annexing some property. We were asked to consider taking over maintenance of a county road, and we made the decision not to do those things because it was just going to cost us money and it was going to provide really no benefit to the city to do that. But the other part of it is we were able to work it out with the folks who requested that things to come up with alternative solutions that work for them, so as Dale reported, so it's great. Anybody have any questions or comments from Dale on the planning commission? Were there any other boards that?
No, but I will mention that we were supposed, the recreation board was supposed to meet last Monday. There's lots of stuff going on, actually, some people out of pocket, so we weren't able to meet, but we'll meet next month. But there's a couple of things I do want to mention. We've got baseball and softball signups going on. The first baseball sign will be this Saturday at Elton Hill Elementary. Softball's having their on-site registration on Thursday, and both of them do have online registrations going on now. So if you know of a little boy, little girl from 5 to 12 that want to play baseball and softball, we've got those ongoing. Our youth basketball season this year didn't get to go on as planned because the deal with COVID and us having to use the schools around. So I sit on that board, so unfortunately we didn't get to have that league this year. But so next year should be a big year for us. And going back to baseball and softball, we were able to have a good fall season. So we're looking at for both of those to be big spring seasons. A lot of people got a lot of energy saying, we're ready to get out of the house and do a lot of good things. So I'm excited about that. I know Al, it's that time of year, and I've worked with Al last couple of months or so, sort of getting the fields and stuff in check. I know his group's been doing a lot of work at the softball fields and the baseball complexes, and so I want to say thanks for you doing that. If you can go back, I don't remember when the storms happened. When did the hurricane come? October, November? We had a lot of damage at Lewis and Bolton fields in terms of the tin roofs. So we were able to work with Charlene, and we got some insurance deductibles on that. The insurance is going to help us replace those tin roofs on those cages there. There was a piece of bleachers that was messed up at the complex on McDowell Road, so we need to. There was a part of that insurance claim, so we'll be able to get that replaced. So there's a lot going on, especially in the next few months. It'll be very active leading into the summer, so I'm excited, and a lot of people are. So if you know of a kid that wants to play and get out, we'd love to have them. Baseball and softball wise, and obviously the rec board will meet next month with full steam ahead. So I appreciate all your work that you've done and your team and your group, and it's got to have some good weather. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other comments, public comments, questions?
One more quick thing to add to the planning meeting. They had their elections that night, so they reappointed Ryan County as chairman, Kevin McGee, pro tem chairman, and Amy Dixon secretary.
I think those other two were drafted. Okay.
You're talking about planning meetings. Is there any way the public, people like me, get to know when they're going to be exactly at a time? Because it seems like lately it kind of dicey.
Well, they're published, and they're on our city website. So there is a link on the website where you've got the boards and the committees, and you can go to the planning commission, and you can click on that, and it tells you when their meetings are. And there's an agenda that's published as well. However, our website is not the most user-friendly in the world, and Ally is working really, really hard. And we actually passed a resolution to contract with a new company to redo our website to make it better and more user-friendly so that information is more easy for you to find.
That's not, I personally don't use Facebook or anything like that. So
Well, this is on Facebook.
This,
This is on the website. I mean, it would be on Facebook, our Facebook page too, but I agree with you. The website would be much more reliable than Facebook, but it's not as user-friendly as
Right,
Facebook.
I'll make sure I mean.
Well, we don't mind you doing that either. Okay.
No, I appreciate it.
But now those meetings are on a monthly cadence or a quarterly cadence, are they?
They're only once a month, and it's the second Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. located here at City Hall. And if we have a public hearing or anything, we post that out here on our bulletin board at the water department and on the city website.
Any other questions or comments?
Bring us up to speed about refinancing the old middle square.
Yes. But we think we can save up to $40,000. So, in order to go through this refinance process, one of the things that it requires, and I am certainly not a technical expert on this, but it's what's called an Amendment 772 validation process. And basically, it's a process to where we have to file in court to prove to a judge that the money that we are borrowing is being used for a valid expense, and we have to justify what it's for. In this case, what we're doing is refinancing existing debt that has already been through that validation process, but we still have to go through